Hi, Rob.
Hello there. What a pleasure. What a pleasure to make your acquaintance. You are renowned for being an absolute legend of
Uh,
snooker broadcasting.
I'm very pleased to be with you.
And look, I understand that you are bringing a glittering career to a close.
Yeah. I always wanted to end my career on my own terms, and I wanted to leave on a high. At a moment where the audience still says, "Oh, it's a pity that Rolf isn't there anymore," instead of saying, "Oh, good luck, he finally realized he should quit." So that's a good moment for me.
And you know what? It's very, very rare, in my opinion, for a broadcaster to do that. In the UK, we have, just like you would have had in Germany, we've had some fantastic once in a generation broadcasters. However, hardly any of them go while they're still at the top. Most of them end up hanging on a little bit too long, and then somebody, a third of their age, pulls them into a corridor and says, "That's it, it's over." So it's all credit to you for recognizing that you're going out when you want to on your terms, not when someone else tells you. And usually, in my experience, when somebody has the self-awareness to make that decision, normally their wife or husband is involved. So did your wife contribute to this decision? Did you talk to her about it?
Of course, I talked with my wife about that because it was a long process. It wasn't just a decision which I made the day before or something like that. Uh, you see, my wife was severely ill. She's fine now. She's okay, but she is already retired. And I realized she can't really enjoy that because she would like to do stuff with me, but I was always working on the snooker. So that didn't change. And so that was the point where I started to think about, what to do.
Well, that makes total sense, and I'm glad your wife's better and that you can enjoy, hopefully, touch wood, as we say in the UK, some wonderful years together in retirement. Because at the end of the day, life's too short, isn't it? Life's too
Yeah.
short.
And I've seen that my father, who was a miner, uh, and my parents always said, "Okay, tough times now, but later on we will have a good life." And he died at the age of 49 when I was 16. So no good life afterwards. He was dead by then.
Wow. And I'm 49 now, so I'm kind of looking at you and thinking that the decision you've made and the dignity with which you've done it, and the warmth that you will have been greeted by the Eurosport public and by the German public and the international snooker community, going out as you're going out is absolutely the way to do it. What do you think? And this may be a hard question for you to answer because you haven't experienced this yet. What do you think you will miss the most about the job? Because I assume you'll probably carry on watching snooker, but what will you miss most about contributing to snooker as a broadcaster?
Oh, well, I surely will miss commentary because I loved this all the time. And it's different when you sit on your sofa just watching snooker, or when you're sitting in the studio and really being in it and going with it and doing commentary. Surely I will miss that. Let's see how I cope with it. I don't know yet.
I think the same because I do commentary on the World Championship, and your level of concentration is so much more intense, and it has to be. The players deserve this to be the case.
Of course.
Your reading of the game is so much more involved when you're on the microphone, because you, even if you're not talking all the time, you're thinking about how the next shot is going to influence the story of the match, and you're basically just trying to tell a good story when you're commentating, aren't you?
Yes, of course, and I'm always really involved. I'm not sitting like that. I'm really moving and acting for having a lively commentary also.
And tell me, how did you first come to be specifically a snooker broadcaster and a snooker statistician? What was it that attracted you to our sport, and when did that happen in your career, in your life?
Well, when I was studying at university in the 80s, obviously, as I told you, my father had died by then already. So there wasn't a lot of money in the house. And for being able to go to university, I also had to earn some money. So I had a job as a speaker or media officer of the German Q Sports Federation. So with that, I got involved into Q Sports. And when Eurosport built up its German language service in 1989, basically I was the only German journalist who was able to write the word snooker. So it was a natural choice that I started to do also commentary on snooker. But for a long time, I haven't not only done snooker commentary, I also have covered other sports, especially dancing and rowing, which always was my Olympic sport. So I was not just a snooker commentator. Now, in the last 20 years, it turned out to be because we are covering now such a lot of snooker. Nearly every event on the main tour is live on Eurosport. So there's no time left for other sports.
So you mentioned rowing. Did you ever cover rowing at the Olympic Games?
Yes, I've been at several Olympic games for the rowing, and I've also covered a lot of boat races.
You know, I think our industry has changed exponentially, especially for people who come from a traditional broadcasting background who have not won a world title or an Olympic medal or gone to an Olympic Games as a participant. What are the key pieces of advice you give when young aspiring German broadcasters and journalists say, "Hey, Rolf, you know, you're a highly successful guy. You're on Eurosport. You cover snooker. You've been to so many editions of the Olympic Games. How do I do that? How do I get that position?" What are the key pieces of advice you give German youngsters trying to break into broadcasting?
Be enthusiastic and do a lot of work.
Yeah, those are the two key pieces of advice. I always tell people that they have to be determined, they have to work hard, they need luck. And I don't know if this is your English is obviously immaculate. I also say to people that you need a thick skin, because sometimes you'll ask someone for something and they're going to say no, and you just need to brush it off and carry on.
Yes, of course, of course. You don't have that in another world of snooker because, you know, as me, you have always the approach to the players. If you want to speak to a player, you just turn around to them and say, "Hey, and do you have a minute?" or something like that. So that's a very nice way to work, which I really appreciate.
Yes, I think the key to snooker is the accessibility of the players, and it's the intimacy. You are close to the action, and I'm sure you know over at the Temperdrome, I'm sure you've had many occasions, and many German snooker fans will have literally rubbed shoulders with top players. "Oh, may I buy you a drink? May I at least have a picture?" Unlike the Bundesliga or Premier League footballers, where
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
they would be
of
cordoned
course.
off with security and you can't get near them. Um, so, of all the, I'm not going to ask you, well, I doubt, because you've done so much great snooker broadcasting and you've covered so many brilliant events. So, you may have one specific moment that stands out, but if you can't narrow it down to one, give us a selection of maybe some of the top 10 matches or moments that when you're sitting on a dark winter's night with some lovely drink in front of you and a roaring fire, that you sit there and go, "That was incredible." What's in your top 10?
Well, there are a lot of great moments. Of course, I remember Sean Murphy winning the 2005 World Championship. That was incredible. Similar last year, Luca Brecel, but also Ronnie winning his seventh world title, and see how he reacted on that, how emotional he was in that moment. he's always telling, "Oh, I don't care, I don't bother about it." In that very moment, you could see that it really counts for him and it was important for him. Or there's another moment when we had the first German Masters in Berlin at the Tempodrome. We all worked hard on making it a success because we wanted the audience to leave the building with a smile on their face. But before we didn't know whether it would work, but it worked. It was brilliant. And we were hugging each other afterwards, and everybody was so happy that it was such a success. That was also a very emotional moment. Of course, on the other side, there was the moment when Paul Hunter died, and we, Eurosport, had a format at that time called Hall of Fame, and we did a special edition showing the career of Paul. And at the end, my voice broke because I was so moved and it was so close to my heart. So that was a very difficult moment, also emotionally.
But I'm sure you delivered that with real empathy and warmth. And my personal view is when you're in front of a camera, you can't do this all the time, but sometimes I don't think it's a bad thing for a broadcaster to show how much they have a personal investment in something, because then the audience realize, this guy, Rolf, truly cares about the product and about the sport. And apart from that first edition of Berlin, I wonder if there's one particular year or one particular winner that really stands out for you, because the atmosphere there is absolutely legendary. And, over the years, there have been some incredible stories.
Well, it's the year when Anthony Hamilton won it, because it was such a great story. And I know Anthony for years already, and he's such a nice lad. And to see him finally achieve that in front of such an enthusiastic crowd, that was a great moment. And I was also very proud on the audience at that time, because it was not one of the big names. It was no Roddy in the final or Judd or John. It was Anthony Hamilton, but they still celebrated him in such a great way. That was really great to see.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I think that was one of the most brilliant stories that we've had in the modern era, certainly in the 15, 16 years I've been involved. So what is going to be your first holiday post-retirement? What's the first trip that you've got planned with your wife to celebrate the end of one fabulously successful chapter in your life and the beginning of another?
Well, end of May, we have an exhibition tour in Germany with Mark Williams, John Higgins, and Ken Doherty. So I will be on the road with them, 3 cities in 3 days. And then beginning of June, my brother, who is living in France, close to Angers, at the River Loire, he's celebrating his 70th birthday. So we are traveling then to France to celebrate his birthday with him and do a holiday after that. And
that's really cool.
That are all other plans we still have to make.
But what a way to finish with Ken and Willow and John Higgins. That is absolutely magic. That's the perfect way to bow out. Rolf.
Yeah, well, I won't be out completely. I still will do some stuff for the online service of Eurosport, and I'm doing this exhibition. And if the promoters and World Snooker would like me to be the MC in Berlin next season, I will do it. So I'm not completely out.
Well,
just as a commentator.
Yes. I think you're bowing out at the perfect time, at the peak of your powers. And I'm going to make a little mental note that if I'm lucky enough to still be going at 66, I want to go out the same way that you have, at the peak of your powers. Many congratulations on a fabulous broadcasting career, and huge, huge thanks on behalf of all the British snooker community for all that you've done to turn snooker into a genuinely global sport. You're one of the key figures responsible for that. And long may you and your wife enjoy many years of traveling, tourism, and happiness and health in retirement. You are and will remain a legend of snooker broadcasting.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks a lot.